Oh, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
With the second pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Von Miller, linebacker, Texas A&M.
He's the greatest ever, huh?
And then I just wanted
When you got all the advantages, it's easy.
Howdy, and welcome to another edition of the Aggie War Pod. The voice you're hearing is mine. It's Jay Arnold, co-host of Aggie War Pod, and I'm joined by Will Stone. Will, thanks for hopping on the podcast again to wrap up the
Jay.
spring. Absolutely.
Excited to be here.
All right, and before we dive into everything, as a reminder, thrilled to be partnered with Home Field. If you're not familiar with Home Field produces some of the best vintage college sports gear. Or if you're into NASCAR, maybe they've got some NASCAR gear. They've got some IndyCar gear. They've got some other collections as well. But use promo code WHOOP for 15% off your first purchase. That's WHOOP. Let's hit the NATO phonetic alphabet again one more time for the end of spring. Whiskey, Hotel, Oscar, Papa, for 15% off your first purchase from Home Field. Again, great stuff there. And Will, spring football has ended. It was brief, quick, kind of like a spring storm in Texas.
That's right.
But I feel like we got to learn a lot of things, have plenty to talk about going into the doldrums of the off season. So let's just jump right into the spring game. Have you gotten a chance to watch it? And if so, what are your biggest takeaways?
Yes, I have gotten a chance. I've caught the first half live and then caught the rest on YouTube. I've probably done a couple rewatches since then on YouTube as well. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of what I was seeing. But yeah, I think a couple things that we've got on our rundown here definitely stood out. Obviously, the defensive line, the pressure that those guys were able to provide on the quarterback, and then the receivers as well. But all in all, I mean, I came away with maybe a more positive feeling than some Aggie fans out there. I know there's, I mean, it's kind of the state that our fan base is in right now, which I get it, but I think there were some real positives that you could take away from this.
Yeah, the defensive line is definitely one of my positives too, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. But before we really start talking about the spring game and breaking it down, for the past 2 years, it's been kind of like a draft format where there's different team captains and drafting. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I may be kind of a boomer or a buzzkill on this. I'm not a fan. Um, I like, I think it's fun. I love a draft. I love drafting, college fantasy, best ball, NFL. Like I think drafts are awesome, but I'm sure it's very fun for these players. I'm glad they actually had a spring game and that we were able to watch it. I don't know if you know this, but like teams like Ohio State and I think maybe Georgia, a couple others, maybe Alabama, they still had the full spring games like we had. Some teams didn't do that. They had like a skills challenge or a combine or a scrimmage or like a practice. Um, there's teams that actually had a spring game and didn't put it on TV. Like there's no way to watch it. So unless you were there. So I'm thankful that we were able to have one and see it on television. But I would just much rather see ones versus ones, twos versus twos. Just because I think, especially on the lines of scrimmage. I mean, I think we saw that this year and last year. But not having, Trey Zune and not having Reed Adams, putting some inside guys out at tackle, having some walk-ons, and some maybe some true freshmen out there, wasn't the best for getting a look at the quarterback spot and things like that. But I don't love it, but I think it is fun to kind of see who the players pick. Like Cassius Howell going first overall. I think that's a cool storyline to kind of see how the team feels about him. But yeah, if it was me, I'd just do it, ones on ones, twos on twos, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love the draft in theory, but in practice, especially like you said in the trenches, along those offensive lines, I want to get the guys that are on the ones and the twos as much continuity as possible. I think it's so important to have your guys gelling, and I just don't think you get that from a kind of and match of different guys on the offensive line. It's just not a good way to get a read on what you have, and again, it affects the quarterback play. And quarterbacks aren't taking hits in this game, so you're not like worried about them getting injured. But it still affects, the time that they have in the pocket, what they're able to do there. And so I would definitely prefer to just have ones versus ones, twos versus twos, or even ones versus twos. Like that's fine too.
Yeah,
But have that continuity on the offensive line just so guys get used to being around each other and they get as many reps together as possible.
absolutely.
Moving on from that, I mean, we already talked about the defensive line a little bit. Talked about Cassius Howell being the first overall pick. I was really impressed with the pass rush in the game, and I do kind of worry just because of what we've just talked about with the offensive line. Uh, but I do think that there was kind of an emphasis on uh, being more efficient rushing the passer in 2025. And I think a guy like Cassius Howell, who really showed flashes last season, then being taken number one in this draft, and just what we were able to see from the defensive line in this game, I think was a great takeaway. I'm really impressed with some of the young guys too. I thought showed flashes. Landon Rink was a guy that I think looked good. Uh, yeah, I'm super excited about this defensive line. I know, well, we tend to be in agreement on a lot of the things that we see. What was your big takeaways from the defensive line from the spring game?
Yes, so obviously it's a place where you had some attrition with guys going to the draft. You had three starters gone. They'll probably all be picked in the first 100 picks of the draft. So it's certainly a big need to go out and you saw Elko and the staff go out. They got some handful of transfer guys. There's some younger guys that are starting to develop a little bit. Some true freshmen. If you gave a Player of the Game award, it was probably Marco Jones. I think he had 5 sacks. Probably some other pressures and TFLs that probably didn't get tracked, but looked really, really good for a true freshman that should still be going to prom, as Coach Sumner would always would like to say about these early enrollees. But really, really promising young player. Yeah, I think Landon Rink really flashed. I'm not one to nitpick the star ratings, but Rink really stood out as a guy that should have been a 4-star. Just kind of across the board with his strength and his power and his burst off the ball. He's showcased all that. Was very disruptive when he got in there. The transfer guys, I think they hit on those guys. I think TJ Searcy was a guy that really popped. I'm like, hey, he didn't really do those kinds of things at Florida. Maybe our scheme's a little bit different, or maybe Coach Chaos is getting them coached up on their technique. But you saw him really rush the passer better than he did when he was at Florida. I liked what I saw from Deion Hayes, the Colorado and formerly a Pitt transfer at defensive end, was applying some pressure. I thought Tyler Onyedem flashed a little bit when he was in there. So these there's it's certainly a need, and it was a bit of an unknown coming in. It's still an unknown. It's just one spring game, but I think it's very, very encouraging to see those guys, just watching them individually and how they perform and just kind of how they move and things like that. I thought it was a really encouraging day.
Yeah. Again, agree with everything you said on that point. And you brought up the defensive line being a position that the staff wanted to address in the portal. Moving on to another position that I felt like a lot of people needed A&M to address in the portals of receivers. And I think a lot of people were excited about Craver and Concepcion being added to this list. And I think we saw some definite flashes from both of them in the spring game. I did want to see a little bit more out of the tight ends while we're on the topic of pass catching, but I do think you have to be, if you're an A&M fan, happy with some of the pickups that you got in the portal for receivers, and then other guys like Isaiah Williams stepping up and making plays. So we'll see kind of how that shakes out next year. I know A&M wants more production from the receivers, but well, what did you see from the receivers in the spring game?
Yeah, I thought it was extremely encouraging. Probably the biggest takeaway of the day was the performance of those guys. You talk about Concepcion and Craver, your two instant impact transfers. Like you really had to have them. When it came time for the portal. I think it was the team's biggest weakness last year was really having playmakers at the receiver spot. Teams were able to just kind of, uh, play man and really stack the box and kind of key in on the running game. So having guys like, I mean, Craver, I mean, not just a deep threat, but like showed some ability uh to have some yak ability, uh get some like make some plays after the catch. Concepcion, he's awesome. I think he's going to be, he'll probably be the leader in targets for the team. But um like the two young guys that I think it's interesting that everyone we're talking about here are guys that Elko and the staff have gone and brought in the last 18 months. So like obviously Craver Concepcion came in December. The other two guys, Bethel Roman and Isaiah Williams, who both flashed. I think both had touchdown catches, and have been drawing a lot of buzz this spring. Elko and them came in and flipped both those guys from other schools, or maybe like got them committed after they got here. Like they weren't, even really looking at A&M until they got here. So I think it's interesting to kind of watch how this staff evaluates and some of the hits that they're having. Like Marco Jones is probably going to be a hit. I think a lot of those guys in that freshman class are going to be hits. Um, and you didn't see a ton. I think TK Norman's one to watch, the true freshman. And then we talk about all these guys, but they didn't have Terry Bussey, who should be back at full strength come August, or Jerome Miles, the five-star true freshman, the only one that's not here this spring. Of course, you'd love to have him, but I think he's doing some track stuff, which bodes well for his recovery from his injury. So I think all in all, like you've got some really, really talented pieces here. It's a pretty young room. I think Concepcion is obviously the oldest guy there. He's only a junior, so there's not a whole lot of, not just a ton of football played amongst this group. So I think the ceiling is sky high, but it may take a second to really all get on the same page. But man, there's a ton of potential in there.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, like really excited to see what this group does and how that impacts the quarterback play in the fall, as well as seeing how this lineup of receivers is able to make a difference when the offensive line is, what we're used to, right, with the typical first unit. Is there anything else that you saw from this game that you really wanted to talk about before we moved on?
Yeah, a couple things on the defense. I thought that you didn't see whoever was calling the defense, they didn't hold back in this game. Like they were sending blitzes. They were like the corners were up, uh, playing press man up in the receiver's face. Not a whole lot of separation. I think the defensive backs really showed up, and kind of an underrated storyline was the linebacker play. I thought Jordan Lockhart, true sophomore, had the interception on Reed there on the sideline. Made some other. He had a big pass breakup on Theo, just kind of all over the place as a middle linebacker. I think last year depth behind Torian, there wasn't much there. Like we really needed him to be healthy all year, which he was, thankfully. But I think now with some of these young guys, I think Lockhart, Jernigan, um, even Noah McHale from the true freshman class, really promising room in the linebacker room.
Yeah, and that's something that I really want to see develop just because I think you get to a point where, in this modern game, you need to have at least a two deep in every game and being able to rotate guys in on occasion. Like being able to take some of that pressure off Torian York. Like if he needs a blow for a second, being able to trust the next guy up. I think is something that's going to be very important. Obviously, you want to have Torian York out there as much as possible, given his football IQ. But now it's not like it's a do or die thing, because I do think we saw some improvements there. Uh, Again, kind of going back to the tight end room, would have liked to have seen a little bit more from some of those guys. I do think Borkatcher
Yeah.
was good, and I still think that like there's a lot of potential with Armstrong as a young guy in this, but just kind of want to see some more out of that position group. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it that I had. Was there any more
No, I
on
think you
your?
nailed it. I know Burkhardt, he had like the nice pass from O'Neal that he kind of he had in his hands and couldn't quite bring it down in the end zone. I know Armstrong had a grab or two. I did want to see more of Nyblack. I think we've heard a lot about him and he was out there, and like was involved. Maybe had a catch or two, but I think he's probably a guy that you didn't see much of this weekend that you probably see a lot of in the fall.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see. I kind of wonder if they're going to do like some because he's a tight end, but he feels like more of like a pass catching specialist, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it'll be interesting to see like kind of how they work him into the offense. I think there's definitely a place for it, but just not quite sure what that's going to look like yet. Also, like you mentioned, some of the guys that are injured that we don't see back. I mean, Bussey's going to
Yeah.
be, I think, a big piece of this offense moving forward. So really excited to see what he looks like. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to read too much into spring games, so that's why we're not like
Yeah.
really doing the deep dive here. But at the same time, there's some things to be excited about, some things that are concerning, and a lot of things that we're going to be looking at whenever fall finally rolls back around. But
Absolutely.
moving on from football, baseball has come alive. Baseball has bounced back in a huge way after that series win over Tennessee, who's number one. Then they get to sweep against South Carolina, and then last week they go on the road to Arkansas and get the win in the series in Fayetteville. So that's a series win over number one and a series win over number two in the span of 3 weeks. And it sets up at the perfect time to have momentum because now the Aggies head to Austin. And what is the most, taking myself out of this being an A&M fan, if I was looking at this game, this is one of the best storylines from like just a pure hatred standpoint. Like if you're writing scripts for the WWE, that's on my mind. I just watched WrestleMania. If you're writing scripts from a sports entertainment standpoint, this is like Paul Heyman leaving, Roman Reigns to go be the manager for Seth Rollins. That's what Jim Schlossnagle has done by abandoning Texas A&M after going to the national title game and choosing to side with Texas and coaching them now. And Texas obviously much improved this year. But man, this series is going to have some heat in it when the Aggies take the field in Austin. Will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that A&M has turned it around, obviously for our own sake. Our first episode, we're like, hey, we're 0-6 in conference. We have Kentucky. We really need to go, win that series. And they didn't. We're like, man, like this might be over, like it's not looking good. And they really rallied back and have been playing great baseball here the last few weeks. So I think you're totally right. It's an extremely compelling storyline. This whole like the whole the mainstream people don't get into college baseball really at all. Like maybe in the World Series, like College World Series, like a little bit, but like I want to see the ratings on this thing. Like, is this going to be like the most watched regular season like college baseball series? I mean, I think that's so interesting. Like,
Definitely in the
there's
state of
been so
Texas.
much for sure. Like, it's been highly publicized. Like, people that don't even follow college baseball know what happened here, and like, it's not just that he left us. It's like, hey, he's also doing well over there, which is like should like it burns up. Aggie fans burns me up that they're having so much success. But now we've kind of gotten right to where and gotten a little bit healthier to where we, have a chance to go in there and make some noise. So I think it's important for A&M, but like, in the grand scheme of things, if they only win one game this weekend, they're going to be fine for their postseason hopes. But forget all that. Like I want to go in and sweep them, Like I'm here for for all the hate and for I think these are going to be some very, very tightly contested baseball games. And man, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, and going back to the on-field side of things, A&M has really found their stride in recent weeks. The bats have woken up. I mean, it's been big for Caden Sorrell to be back in the lineup. I think he has really sparked everything. I think we talked about it a little bit in the
Yeah,
last episode. But on the pitching side of things, I think Weston Moss discovering him as a bullpen arm has been massive. I think Luke Jackson looked really good in his last
absolutely.
appearance. Like getting some more out of the arms has been huge because the starting staff has been solid. I know that there's been some iffy times for Prager, but Prager, Lampkin, and Patton are very good for a starting trio on your weekend lineup, and you're finally getting the bats going to help them out there, and then having some
Yeah.
some arms you can go to in the bullpen is massive.
I
So
think I
that
saw the stat where before this weekend, Arkansas in SEC games had scored 6 or more runs in every SEC game. And in our 2 wins, we held them to 4 runs and 2 runs. So like it's and most like that was all from the starters, like for the most part. Like I know Patton, I think Patton held him to 1 run before he came out. And then Prager, like, I mean, it wasn't like the best Prager that we've seen, but it was definitely good enough. And that's a very dangerous lineup that they have. And it's in Arkansas, a very tough place to play in this league. So I thought the arms did great. The bats woke up, and you score 7, you score 9 against a pretty deep pitching staff. So it's going to be uh, just as tough this weekend. It's as tough as Tennessee was, as tough as Arkansas was uh, on the road again, as Willie Nelson would say. But yeah, it's super exciting, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, and we don't have college football for the rest of the year. We may have to link back up after this series, depending on how it goes, just to get one more episode in for the spring. But that pretty much covers everything that we were going to talk about.
The draft is Thursday. I always get up for the draft. We'll see some Aggies get picked, but yeah, I mean, like the spring game, it's the last thing we got until August. So it's still 100 something days away until that first game. So hopefully that can tide us over, and hopefully this baseball team is getting hot at the right time. And that was a very pleasant way to spend my summer last year. Was following this team and what they were doing. So here's to beating the hell out of TU, and hopefully a strong run here to finish the season.
Well, we'll see if they can keep that momentum rolling. Just as a reminder, if you're a fan of Aggie War Pod, you enjoy what you heard, make sure to subscribe, share, give us that 5-star rating, do all the things that help us grow as a sponsor. If you're interested or grow as a podcast, I got ahead of myself there a little bit. If you're interested in sponsoring Aggie War Pod, you can reach out to me anytime. Happy to have that conversation. Again, just looking to grow and really thankful to Dave Campbell's Texas Football and the Republican Football Network for giving us an opportunity to talk about Aggie sports. It's been a great spring, Will. Thanks for filling in during this time. And to all of the listeners, we appreciate you joining us on this journey.